Hello guys, I'm Vero and today's video is about my full creative process, and I'm going to show you how I go from this to this and talk about all the tools that I use and how I use them. But first, I have an announcement to make. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. As you probably already know, Skillshare is an online learning community for creators with more than 25,000 classes that can help you in every field like marketing, photography, design, and much more. Whether you want to fuel your curiosity or creativity, whether you want to learn more about your hobby or your profession, Skillshare probably has classes that can help you with that. You can find a lot of helpful and inspiring things about art as well. My favorite things to watch on Skillshare are classes held by professional artists that share everything about their own creative process from the beginning to the end, because there is so much to learn from them. These two classes that I'm showing you right now, for example, the style of these two artists is so contrasting. One is very graphic and full of contrasting colors, and the other one is much more organic and it has much muted colors. But these two artists are similar in one way. Both of them create art in a very spontaneous way, and that's so inspiring. I wish I could be like them one day. So I definitely recommend you to check those classes because they're really cool. Just so you know, Skillshare is also very affordable with less than $10 per month with the annual subscription. But I'm going to put a link in the description below this video so that any of you that will use that link will get 2 months of Skillshare Premium for free, so that you can see for yourself if you like it or not. While I was watching those classes, I noticed that I haven't really showed you in a single video how I make paintings from start to finish, and actually talk about what I'm doing and my tools. So since you guys seems to be curious about it, because I'm receiving a lot of questions lately, I'm making this video. So let's start from the sketch right away. Before buying the iPad, when I had an idea for a painting, I used to make a lot of thumbnails, sketches, in the sketchbook that I made myself. I would draw the thumbnail, then make a photo of it, then print it in the size that I wanted the final painting to be. Then I would use the light pad and adjust the drawing while tracing it. And I did it because I don't sketch in a clean way. I'm a very messy person and my sketches are also very messy. So to refine the drawings and get a very clean sketch, I always trace the drawing over and over again. And now I do that on the iPad. I do the same thing, but it's much more easier because there are layers. To sketch in my sketchbook, now I mostly use mechanical pencils and sometimes colored pencil too. I find mechanical pencils to be much more comfortable than normal pencils. I use them with different lead size, 0.3, 0.5 and 2 millimeters. I use the 0.3 almost exclusively to trace my drawings on the watercolor paper, because what I get from it is a very thin, light and precise line that won't be noticeable underneath the watercolor. I use the 0.5 pencils to sketch when I want a more precision. I use the 2 millimeters mechanical pencils for more gestural drawings, or if I have to draw something big. I mostly use 2B pencils to sketch. I prefer soft pencil, which is why I also sketch with an 8B, which might seem too much for you, but just so I like so much the softness of pencils. Sometimes I use colored pencils to sketch, and I have some that are supposed to be erasable for Staedtler, but they don't really erase well. And I use a lot Marco Raffine pencil lately because they're very smooth, so I also sketch with them. To sketch digitally, which as I mentioned before is the way I used to sketch at the moment, I use my iPad 6 and Procreate. This doesn't mean that I don't sketch on paper anymore. I do own sketchbooks and I also use them, and I strongly believe that sketching on paper and its limitation are fundamental to train your skills, because you can't just move things around like you do digitally. But I really like to use digital art to develop concepts because it's less time consuming and it's very easy to build the composition and try different things without messing too much around. For example, experimenting with color palettes is much easier and you can move things around without having to always redraw everything. And you can do this on your computer as well. You don't have to have an iPad. There are many affordable drawing tablets out there, and you can perfectly do this on any drawing software for a computer. That's really all you need. The only thing that an iPad adds up to the whole deal is the portability. It feels like a sketchbook to me. If I get an idea in the middle of the night, or if I want to draw while watching a movie in the complete dark, I can do it. If I want to draw somewhere outside my house, I can do it because I don't have to bring 500 things with me, so it's like very convenient and portable. I basically bought the iPad because of that. It just basically to spoil myself. I could have done this on the computer perfectly, and you can do it as well. As you can see, what I do is making a lot of layers on Procreate. Like I told you before, in every layer I add more details and I try to be more precise, so the sketch will be cleaner and cleaner. In this case, I'm using a reference photo that I found on Pinterest, and if you know who she is or who took the photo, please tell me so I will put all the credits in the description. After finish the drawing, I adjust the size that I want the illustration to be, and I print it. Then I transfer the drawing onto the watercolor paper. I use Winsor Newton paper. I always use this paper. I never directly draw on watercolor paper unless it's in my sketchbook, because erasers ruin the paper, so I try not to do that because watercolor paper is very expensive and precious. And there are two ways I use to transfer the drawing onto the watercolor paper. I use the light pad or the carbon paper that I make by myself, because in this way it's free, reusable, and especially it's erasable because I use graphite to make it. Usually carbon paper that you buy in shops, they are not really erasable, so yeah, I don't use them because of that reason. I only use carbon paper when there are many details that I lose on the light pad, because sometimes the light pad make things too blurry. So if there is something that has a lot of details or something that's very small, I use carbon paper to trace it, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to even see the details on the light pad. So now, how do I outline my drawings in this moment of my life? For colored outline I use acrylic inks, and for black and white I just use India ink. Why, you ask? Because those things are made with pigments, so they're light fast and very, very waterproof because they're acrylics. By the way, the light fast is sort of a way to measure how long a color can last under the light, because color are not permanent and they fade with time. So light fast, a color being light fast, it's important if you want your art to last a long time. I used to use my beloved pilot Penmanship, but now I don't use that anymore to make paintings, because fountain pen inks are not light fast. They're made with dyes and not with pigment based ink, because pigments would clog the pens, but that means that ink of fountain pens is also water soluble, which doesn't allow you to ink your illustration before coloring them with watercolors. Like, you always have to do it at the end, and sometimes if you make a lot of layers, the paper sort of damages and the ink will feather, so they're not super versatile. So yeah, I use nibs now. At the moment I'm using this Leonard Hero 801 nib, and I also use Zebra G pens. It's just what I'm using right now. You can use any nib that you prefer. After inking the drawing, I erase what's left of the pencil marks. Remember that especially if you ink your drawings with colorful inks, the pencil lines must be very light, otherwise the pencil will cause the ink to look darker. You could actually trace the drawing directly with ink on the light pad like mangaka do, but I don't trust myself to do that, but you can always do it. Also remember to erase unwanted pencil lines before painting watercolors, because once you put watercolors on top of pencil, you won't be able to erase it anymore. You want to know why? Because watercolors are made with gum arabic, which is also a very good fixative for graphite and charcoal. So if you want to make a natural fixative for your drawings, you can perfectly use gum arabic, water, and a very fine nebulizer, and yeah, you're welcome. Now for the watercolors. As you might know, I own a lot of watercolors. Here I have all of my professional artist grade ones. I decided to move all of them in these boxes so that I have all of them in front of me without having millions palettes that occupy too much space. In this way, I can get access to the colors I want very easily, and the most satisfying thing is that all of them fit perfectly in these two boxes. Here I have Mijello, White Knights, Daniel Smith, Winsor & Newton, Sennelier, Schmincke, Zecchi, and Holbein. A lot of people ask me what's my favorite watercolor brand, and I don't really know. I like all of them. I use them differently depending on what I want to paint, because every brand has slightly different characteristics in the paint. But overall, artist grade paint is all good. I don't really like Holbein though, because it doesn't work for me, but I like the rest. I especially like the ones that are good but also cheap, affordable, like the White Knights and the Mijello, for example. I feel completely comfortable using them because I know that I'm not wasting a million euros if I end up throwing away the drawing. I do agree with the rest of the world that says that the best watercolors out there at the moment are the Daniel Smith ones, because I get it, they have good shades and they kind of have all the characteristics that watercolors should have. I haven't tried many of them yet. At this point, I think that they're very good, but they're too expensive, so I don't really want to like them. I don't really want to use them. Anyway, about this painting, I think that from now on you kind of know how things goes, because I always record this painting part. I also made a video where I try to explain how I paint watercolors. You can watch that if you want. If there's a quick tip that I can give you with paint, is that always try to paint from the lighter shade to the darkest, because watercolors tend to bleed into each other, and if dark colors bleed into light colors is much more messier than how it is otherwise. And always be sure to let the layers dry before making other layers, because otherwise you create hot spots and like patchiness. At the moment, I'm also experimenting a bit with textures because I think that my work is very flat, so I'm trying to get into textures, and I'm using colored pencils, also using like dry brushing with watercolors, and I'm trying to find patterns and things that can make my art look more interesting and more intricate, because I really like that, and less flat, let's say. So yeah, I used colored pencil at the end. Okay, I think that's it. I don't have anything else to say. I'll leave you to the rest of the video. I hope you liked it. I hope you find this video helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment and I will try to reply if I know the answer. Remember that I always write all the list of all the material that I use in my videos, and you can find it in the description box, so please check it before asking me what ink I use. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye guys.